When one thinks of Moscow, it conjures up a lot of different images. Some people remember the Cold War, Red Square, or maybe just some gray panel houses. But for others, it's a living city of art districts, skyscrapers, and historical sites. For me, it's a combination of all of those things. But one thing that probably doesn't hit anyone instinctually is Bigfoot hunting around a czar's palace. And that's where your image of Moscow is frankly missing out. Built on the ancient road between Kolomna, which I have a video coming out touring there too, and the city center of Moscow, Kolomenskoye Park is the former royal estate of the Tsardom of Russia. This 390-hectare plot of land overlooks the Moscow River, and it's one of the places that Peter the Great first learned to sail and play Navy war games with his boys. The park is also a sort of repository for historic Russian architecture, since during the Soviet times they took buildings from other more rural parts of Russia and brought them over here so that way they can be maintained and enjoyed more broadly than they would being in a forest somewhere in the middle of Siberia. But not everything is foreign to here. In fact, this oak tree, which is now one of the oldest oaks in Moscow, I guess it's 700 years old, is standing right next to some cool ancient pagan stones that were found nearby. And as a weird twist of fate, this little guy isn't the last pagan stone we're gonna see today. The house next to this oak is actually the former house of Peter the Great when he was living in Arkhangelsk, which is like super far north Russia. And it's full of original artifacts from his life inside. If you don't know anything about Peter the Great, or maybe you're just a little rusty from history courses, I highly recommend you read his Wikipedia page. He is a fascinating individual. This man affected the entire world, and incredibly so with Russia. He's the reason Russia went from a tsardom of bearded Slavic fairy tale looking guys to a more Western European fairy tale looking kind of guys. And that's the cool thing about this park. You're walking on the floor that he walked on. You're looking at the maps he used to learn cartography, and even seeing the icons that he prayed to daily. I don't know about you guys, but for me, I think that's pretty cool. And it's not just cool wooden far north buildings either. There's lots of cool original places, like the Church of the Kazan Mother icon. It's actually original to this area, and it's from the 17th century. Arguably one of the most famous locations in Russia, let alone in this park, is the Ascension Church of Ivan the Terrible. This church is where Ivan was actually baptized, and was built by his father after a prayer for a son was finally answered by God, and was finished in 1532. Orthodox churches all over the world have unique architecture, but this one is one of the first ones built in this amazing pillar style that is now really commonly associated with Russian Orthodoxy. So the next time you pass by an Orthodox church and you see one of those cool pillars sticking out of it, well, now you've seen the original. Next up is the John the Baptist Church, which is from the 16th century. And it actually overlooks the haunted Golosov Ravine, which we're gonna talk about a little later, as well as a creepy apple orchard. It's even said that the architect who built St. Basil's Cathedral, the one that was blinded when he finished it, built this one too. Our next site is one of the most crazy looking places I've ever seen in real life. This is the Tsar's Summer Palace. And it looks like someone straight up teleported this right out of a fairy tale. So with how ridiculous this is just this front area. And it goes all the way out there. It was built by Tsar Alexei Romanov, the second Romanov to rule Russia, and it was completed in the 17th century. However, the place you're looking at directly is a modern reconstruction from the original architectural plans. Because Empress Catherine the Great, although building up and protecting a lot of churches in her reign, also decided to destroy this for being not quite up to her royal standards, shall we say. Basically, after Peter the Great moved the palace to St. Petersburg, this place kind of fell into disuse, and the royals, having, you know, the Winter Palace and the Kremlin, really don't need to live in a dilapidated wooden house. But this far predates Catherine and Peter and even Alexei, as archaeological findings find ancient peoples living here since the 5th century BC. And on a weird opposite spectrum, the most recent residents actually lived in the park until 1980. They were the descendants of the serfs here, the estate workers that helped maintain this place for the Tsar. The building itself has over 26 towers and a whopping 270 rooms, all decorated in the traditional pre-imperial style. It has multiple dining halls, a throne room, tons and tons of bedrooms, a 100-person Russian sauna that they call a banya, an entire story, like a whole level of the building, dedicated only to housing the women of the family to protect them from the men of the family, as well as hundreds and hundreds of original artifacts of the royal family from this era. And at the very end of your journey, when you're finished with everything, most places send you through a gift shop. This place has a fully functioning restaurant that serves food based on the original royal menu. It's overpriced, but overpriced in Russia is underpriced in the US, so we definitely stopped there to eat something. The last and frankly the spookiest place on the grounds, and also the name I'm probably gonna butcher the worst, so if you speak Russian, I'm sorry, is the Golosov Ravine. Regardless, this ravine is a place that has a long and storied, mysterious background, including being the source of a mysterious time-traveling green fog, ghost warriors of the past, pagan veneration sites, and even the Russian Bigfoot. Now, I won't really do justice to it on my own, so I'll just read the Wikipedia article here, and you can go look it up for yourself. I'll leave it in a comment down below. Since ancient times, the ravine has always been shrouded in mystery. One amazing story was recorded in the 17th century. In 1621, a small unit of Crimean Tatars, which are like Mongolians, turned up at the walls of the Tsar's palace. It was immediately surrounded by soldiers who guarded the entrance to the palace. Being lost and disoriented, the horsemen claimed to be part of the armies of the Crimean Khan that raided Moscow in 1571. Sensing defeat and wanting to avoid capture, they retreated into what was referred to as Golosov Ravine, where they were quickly enveloped in a thick mist. Spending what seemed to them like only a few minutes in trying to find their way back in, they found that 50 years had passed. One of the captives, named Morozov, said that the mist was unusual, of light green color. Tsar Mikhail ordered an inquiry, which revealed that the men probably told the truth. They had even old-fashioned arms and armor, mostly from the 1560s and 70s. In the 19th century, cases were documented by the Moscow Police Department. One such story, which was published in a newspaper in July of 1832, said 2 local villagers had a big night out at a neighboring village and decided to take a shortcut home through Golosov Ravine. A blanket of thick greenish fog settled over the ravine, and all of a sudden, a corridor appeared. The 2 men walked into it and met a giant human-like creature who tried to show them the way back by signs. A few minutes later, the villagers left the ravine and moved further out. When they eventually came to their village, it appeared that 20 years had passed. Their wives and children had been significantly aged and hardly recognized them. The incident was reported to police, an investigation was launched, during which one of the time travelers disappeared in the fog again without a trace. For centuries, giant human-like creatures have been periodically spotted in and around Golosov Ravine. Such cases were recorded not only in the ancient and medieval chronicles, but also in the Soviet periodicals. Large, hairy, man-like creatures are most likely identified with the Leshy, a sort of Bigfoot from Slavic mythology who is more man than ape and is more woodland spirit than mortal being. In 1926, a policeman reported seeing a giant hairy wild man who was allegedly over 2 meters tall in Golosov Ravine. The policeman pulled out his pistol, but the creature instantly disappeared into the fog. Local school children were even involved in the search for the unusual guest, but any attempts to locate and catch him were unsuccessful. This unusual case made the front page of one of the metropolitan dailies under the headline, "Pioneers Catching Leshy." So you can see that these ghost stories are not some recent fiction, but go way back in time. And yet the ghosts and time-traveling big feet? Whatever they aren't the only spooky thing around here. For that, you need to look no further than the streams and stones of the ravine. The sources of the streams throughout the ravine are considered sacred not just by the Orthodox, who had a chapel built down here at some point, but by their predating counterpart, the pagans. The most venerated spot by both is this spring right here. It's called Little Tub, which was later Christianized to be the spot where St. George fought the dragon and all those cool icons you see in all the churches. Then on the side of the stream lies 2 more sites of ancient deity worship, the Goose and the Maiden Stones. The stones are ancient pagan veneration sites of the god Veles. He's the god of earth, harvest, and fertility. The Goose Stone is a miracle site for male fertility, and the Maiden Stone is the counterpart for female fertility. To this day, these stones get venerated by pagan and Wiccan worshippers, and the signs of it are everywhere. I don't know. Oh, it might be right there. That's it. You see the stuff wrapped around?
I don't know. It's a mystery.
Head hurts?
No, it's spinning like
We just walked up, and there's apples and all this fabric tied, and these are the stones under us. Don't walk on the stones, she says. There's all this little pagan things in the trees.
Ave Maria.
So this is the rock. Here, one of the rocks, this is the Goose Stone. What does it say?
It's a brand of cakes.
Oh. So we just noticed, next to the stone, there's all these little people icons wrapped in red wire. Wow, look, they have like sticks sticking out of them for eyes. Look at that. Paganism alive and well in Russia.
Look, he has a dog.
And a dog. Wow, that is a dog. Crazy. So this second one, we noticed a bunch of tree wrappings up here. So this is probably where the next pagan stone is. All right, we're getting closer. Even up there, kind of, oh yeah, it's wrapped all around here. Oh, this is the stone. Oh! And it looks like... Oh no. So this is the maiden stone. They dug it out. There's more wrapping on it.
He's telling me something.
What does the maiden say?
It's cold.
More of these tied up pieces of... It looks like they're tying the grass. Like on top of these rocks. Don't kick the stone.
No, I'm helping it to get rid of snow and ice.
I don't know if you guys can see it. There's writing. All... I mean, it's mostly covered in snow, but there's lots of little bits of writing on this thing. Huh? So, say that again.
These things are used to decorate the hair dresses for girls, all of them.
Oh, wow.
Not this guy, probably. And that.
I don't know if you guys can see it. Svetlana pointed out this whole little birch or whatever forests are covered. I mean, look how high up they are. They're probably 20 feet, 5 meters or so off the ground. So the next time you're looking for Halloween fun in Moscow, you don't need to go to some costume party or a recitation of Gogol at some expensive downtown theater. You only need to take a camera and head down the mist of Golosov Ravine. You'll find that centuries of spooks wait for you at the bottom.